Hello, this is Tim Law with Playing It Forward Coaching and Self-Reliant You. Always remember you are essential, your life, your dreams, your goals, and career. Uh, and always make sure that, you're doing your very best every day, trying to apply a lot of the wisdom we're doing on this Playing It Forward Coaching. And very much appreciate over 300 people that have subscribed to this channel. And if you haven't yet, please do. There's a lot of collective wisdom from a lot of wonderful people. My guest today is a guy I knew and liked as soon as I met him, a guy named Corey Poulson, Coach Paulson, up at Northeastern Middle School. He's also the head track coach, involved very much with football, and just been a good friend all the way around. So Coach Paulson, welcome, sir, and tell us a little bit about yourself, your story, and let's roll.
Thank you, Mr. Law, AKA Dad. We have a little joke goes on for a while, so
different gene pool though, because I'm nowhere near your size.
correct. But hey, we still have we have a lot of similarities for sure.
Yes, sir.
But I want to thank you for having me. It's always been nice to share a story with students or even adults at sometimes, and of things you've learned. And I've only been alive for 37 years, and I've learned a lot. And I know there's a time where you're going to continue to learn, and you're going to learn new things each year. And I take that for granted sometimes, but I continue to learn each and every time I talk to somebody. So my story kind of starts off in a little town called Erie, Pennsylvania. It's up near Lake Erie, and a lot of times you can look at the smokestack of Pennsylvania, and that's directly where I grew up. Went to Harbor Creek High School, graduated in 2002. I played football and did track and field for the Huskies. I did a little stint at Penn State Barron. I was up there for about 2 years. Didn't really have a major in mind, and decided that I wanted to go elsewhere. And I went to Slippery Rock University, where I graduated in 2007 with a degree in health and physical education, and did my 4 or 5 years there. I did some student teaching at this little town of Titusville, and learned a lot from a guy that was a mentor for me. And his name was Tim McCord. I learned a lot from him while I was with him. Pretty well-known person in the PE business. Then in 2007, I got hired here at Northeastern Middle School, and I've been here ever since. And I've been coaching football for approximately, I'm going to say 13 years now. And then track and field, I've been coaching for 11 years. So I've had a long stint in coaching, and that's pretty much what my identity is. I feel that's the person who I am, and I'm not referred as Mr. anymore. It's always Coach, and it's something that I appreciate, and something that I take some good pride in. And so I've been here and continue to work with students here at Northeastern, and it's been a great ride so far.
Yes, sir. And I think that as I said, I've always been impressed with whether it's how you run your health class or your phys ed class, that kind of thing. And what are some of the lessons as far as coaching is concerned? You and I were talking about that, how the COVID scenario has really, lessened some of the participants on the teams. How are you adjusting as far as your track is concerned, Coach, with the fewer numbers or whatever? You've got some good quality out there, that's for sure.
Yeah. When I took over the program 4 years ago, we were maxing out with kids I think we were maxing out around 20 to 50 kids, and that's both boys and girls teams.
Mm-hmm.
So the team was down, but my philosophy with kids is you got to turn over rocks, and you got to find these kids and get them out to participate. And I know you do that as well with your tennis team, and you can find kids just sitting around at the lunch tables or in PE class or health class, whatever it is, and just say, hey, you look like you could be somebody that can compete at a high level, whether it be track or football, and just get that stuck in their mind and thinking, maybe I could be that. And so that's kind of what I've done ever since I got the head job at Northeastern. And we were building up, and last year before the pandemic hit, we were at 120 total kids.
Yeah, you had kids coming out of every place.
Yeah, and it was like it's where we were supposed to be for a Division I school, because the Dallas Towns, the Red Lions, those kinds of schools were having those numbers too. So
Mhm.
my job was to get the numbers up, and which we did. And then with the pandemic, we only had 2 solid weeks, but we had a great senior class that I felt terrible for, because I really wanted to see how well they were, because they were pretty much my first group that I started, the head job with. So it was like that 3-year turnover. That's where you see where your work comes into play, is how I feel with a lot of the sports if you take over a program. So it was unfortunate to see those kids, not be able to compete their senior year. But many of them, are doing some really great things, whether it's being in college or military and things like that. So it's good to see that they, they're resilient in regards to that. This year, though, our numbers are half that. We're at only a total of 60 kids right now.
Mhm.
And I've reached out to every single kid that didn't come out. And the biggest excuse that I found out was they got a job. They started working, which, maybe I can't fault them for, because maybe they just didn't want to sit around the house anymore. So they decided to make some money. So I have a feeling that next year will be different. I think
Mhm.
we'll get those numbers back up again. And that's all I can hope for. But yeah, it's a struggle. We don't have the quantity, but we do have the quality kids. I think
Mhm.
the kids that we do have are going to do an outstanding job this year, and and not take things for granted for their senior year or junior year, because they're down one. So yeah, pretty cool stuff, and hopefully it only improves.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I certainly feel bad for that 2020 group, a year ago, because we had a similar situation where we had like 5 or 6 seniors that were just really keyed up, ready to go, and and that's what we're trying to get across to all the kids going forward, is that, hey, you just never know. I mean, who would have
Right.
thought a year ago, this pandemic would pretty much wipe out the spring season for sure.
Correct.
What are some of the life lessons, coach, that you feel that is helpful for the student athletes in sports, that kind of thing, that you think they can carry on, through the rest of their life, whether involved with sports, band, music, extracurricular, get involved with something.
Right. My biggest thing and this is something that I've lived by for a while, but you know, I always treat every day as an interview, because you don't know who you're going to meet. It could be kids down the road, adults, and some shape or form, they could be in your life down the road, hiring you, or getting your next gig, or getting your next job, or getting you that recommendation that you need. So I always say, whoever you meet new, or throughout your school or college career, or even it's just friends, every day is an interview. And I
Mhm.
remember everybody that I've taught or coached, and I remember those kids. And if they ever wanted a recommendation, or maybe they ever wanted to come back and coach, um, you know, what they did and how when I first met them, or if at the same time thinking of things that they did in their accomplishments at school, I think that is really important. So those everyday interviews that are out there can turn into big things, whether it be a job, whether it be education. And I feel like I interview still, and it could be from kids that are in the middle school that I have now. I could be hiring them as assistant coaches in 10 years.
Mhm.
So those types of things I think go a long way, and vice versa. I mean, you got me one of my part-time jobs that I had with John Wright, and that was one of the experiences I enjoyed a lot, and I thank you for that. So just giving a recommendation for certain things can go a long way. So I always try to tell kids, hey, you interview every single day, and you never know who or what your next stop is going to be. And that's my biggest thing for kids, is just, hey, be ready at all times, because you never know who you're going to meet, and that could be a big deciding factor in your future.
Great perspective, coach. I really, really like that. And Muhammad Ali had a great saying, and it was, you better be good to the people on the way up the mountain, because they're going to be the same ones you see on the other side of the mountain,
Correct.
coming down. And so the idea that if the kids would look at, and that really changes how they should look at life, realizing that you want to think of every day as an interview. There's no sense burning any bridges, or creating enemies. You can't have too many friends
Correct.
in this world and too few enemies. So yeah, great perspective. Other thoughts that you have along those lines as far as life lessons you've learned from sports yourself when you were competing, and how they've helped you, because we all have bumps in the road, it's definitely good to have the challenge of some of the life lessons we've learned in sport.
Yeah. I think about my coaches more than anything. Um, the head football coach that I actually played for, Coach Budashevsky, um, I had him for health class. I had him for gym class as well too. I mean, he was a guy that tried to get me out for football for many, many years, and I wasn't one of those kids that was interested in it right away. But he kept on, talking to me, trying to get me interested. And then one year said, you know what, I'm going to do it. And I became actually a pretty darn good football player. I thought I was always a great track star, but I was actually a better football player than I was a track star. And, so I kind of thank him for that. And also, my throwing coach, Mrs. Lumberg, and, these people have, believed in me and, really got me to where I am now. And kind of,
Yeah.
I get a little emotional about that because
all good, coach. Absolutely. Well, what's interesting, and I can totally identify what you're saying, is that a lot of times it does take an adult, to kind of believe in you,
right,
for you
yeah,
to almost see yourself. So the idea that we don't, as younger kids or whatever, we don't necessarily see that, but then you have somebody that you like and admire or love and admire, whatever, that believes in your potential and says, hey, you could probably do,
right,
that's how I got into teaching and coaching, was with a guy. Did some work with my younger brother's wrestling team. He was a ninth grader in high school. I was a first year freshman. Went in there. The coach there realized he was a young guy, mid-20s. Asked my brother Dave if I would come in and help out. Over the Christmas break, I did. I get done with it. He says, "Hey Timmy," and he says, "You really did a great job. Would you ever think about getting into coaching?" Went back second semester, changed the major, all because of that man.
yep.
So I believe me, I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, so I always act tough, but I'm a softie, and those type of things, people, that's what I hope to do. I hope to help at least one kid,
Mhm.
and say, hey, Coach Poulson, help me out. That's what you want to do. And, that's what you want to feel and say, hey, you made a difference. And so, yeah, I do get emotional, but at the same time, that's who I am. That's
Mhm.
how, you know,
Yeah.
that that's what I was put on this earth to do, was to help people,
Sure. Well,
kids.
the other thing too, coach, is that as we had kind of have this conversation, none of us are polished Hollywood people here, or whatever, airbrushed or whatever you want to call it. But it's a genuineness in the conversation that you're showing, like right now. That's exactly the wisdom and ideas and that I really want to see come through on these interviews. So this is fantastic. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, just the people that you meet and get involved with, it's been a quite a ride. And I know, it's still early still, and there's going to be continued, people that I work with, other coaches and stuff like that. And, it's been a lot of fun. And just trying different things, I know there is like some things that they say, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But I've always been one of those people that is like a pioneer in trying different things. And, you go to clinics and you learn about different things, whether it be about teaching or sports or whatever it is. And I always thought, what if we did this differently? I always try
Mhm.
to think outside the box and, try different things, because yeah, there are some ways that are the easier road, but why don't we try something different? We might find something new. So, and I guess that kind of goes into taking a little risk sometimes. It's not good. You're going to fail. Maybe you might be successful, but if you don't try, you're never going to know. And
Sure.
I think that's important too, that kids need to know. And, it sometimes it's all right to not be safe and take a chance at whatever it is, whether it's a college choice or a job that you want to try and, interview for. Try it. Who knows? It could be the best change in your life or decision that you make. And you'll enjoy life rather than say, oh, I wish I could have done that. But you
Mhm.
can actually look and say, I'm glad I did that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is that, I try to say to some of the kids, if they're trying to teach them, whether it's a wrestling technique or something with tennis or whatever, oh, I can't do it. They'll say, I said, listen, I said, when you were first born, did you come out of the womb walking? Well, of course not. You crawled, you rolled over, you eventually got to your feet. And oh, by the way, when you slipped and fell, the first time you started toddling, your parents didn't say, oh, that's it, my kid's not going to walk. No, my kid's going to walk. And they have to take that same perspective going forward with any skill. You've got to be willing to kind of be bad or not very good at it at the beginning in order to become good later on. Right, certainly agree with what you're saying.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, it's you look back at and you think about what every coach has ever said to me, or teacher, or even my parents, and say, well, you'll realize it as you get older.
Mm-hmm.
I have realized, oh, I should have done this a little bit different, or I should have put a little bit more effort into the weight room or grades, and maybe things would have been different. I mean, I'm not complaining where I'm at now, but those kind of things as a youngster, you don't think about. You don't think, they don't know what they're talking about. That's exactly how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
We can tell them that till we're blue in the face, but until they experience, they'll be like, okay, I get it now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and one of the things I try to emphasize with these interviews is this concept of wisdom. You've got Google, you got all kinds of things with knowledge out there, but wisdom in a lot of cases is in rare supply. So
Yes.
Discussing some of the things that you're saying here, Coach, is just, it's just phenomenal. Any last second thoughts or tips or ideas you might give for some of your charges there, whether it's track, football, the kids in school, anything along those lines?
Yeah, I mean, I like I said, you got to take it all in, because it could end real quick. Whether it be from an injury, or when I remember when it was my last track meet I had, or last football game, it was pretty emotional. So if you need to take every ounce of you get, whether it be sports or school. But that doesn't mean it doesn't happen in other ways. I mean, you get the same feel, like the one song, it talks about, you get the same feeling from a football game, but it's different. The birth of your kids, when you get married, all those kind of things. So things are different, but the same feelings occur. And it's been great. And you know what? Stay ready, because you never know what could happen. And that's probably my best advice to these kids.
Always ready to interview, Coach. That's for
Correct.
sure. Love it.
Every day's an interview.
Love that perspective. Well, Coach, this has been fantastic. Hang on a little bit afterwards here, and we'll catch you for a second.
Okay.
And,
thank you for having me.
Thank you, Coach. And we'll definitely, I'll probably be seeing you this afternoon, because you're going to be at your practice. I'll be at mine. Right. And all good.
All
Thank
right.
you, sir. Appreciate you.